Shalom everyone, and today we are learning Parashat VaYigash. We're also celebrating the last day of Hanukkah, the eighth day of Hanukkah, and this is the end of the Rosh Chodesh of the month of Gedi Tevet, the month of Capricorn. Many events all together, and we'll see how to connect all of them by the code of Parashat VaYigash. Parashat VaYigash can be found in the book of Genesis, chapter 44, verse 18. Now, the story is the famous story of Joseph, the amazing story of Joseph. Joseph is being sold by his brothers as a slave in, uh, in the land of Israel. However, they take him, the buyers, they take him to Egypt, they sell him to Potiphar. Over there, he's very successful till he becomes the master of all the business of Potiphar, one of the most powerful people in all of Egypt. And then the wife of Potiphar, she wants Joseph. He's trying to avoid her. Finally, she sets him up and he runs away from her bed, leaving his clothes behind. And she gets very upset. She blames him that he attacked her and is thrown into jail. 10 years later, in jail, he's already running the jail. He's the master of the jail. However, two celebrities come into jail and both of them have a dream at the same night, the wine steward and the baker. Joseph interprets their dreams, and as he does, the wine steward is going back to his position within 3 days, and the baker is hung by Pharaoh. However, the wine steward forgets about Joseph. Only 2 years later, and we studied about it in the past parasha, Parashat Miketz, that the Midrash is teaching us that basically Joseph, after he asked a favor from the wine steward, he realized that he did it in the wrong manner. He had too much trust in the wine steward, and in his perception, if you trust other people too much, then you cannot be the royal, you cannot be the creator of your own life. Which means the main idea over here that the most important relationships we have is with the creator. It's more important than our spouses, our children, our parents, siblings, partners, bosses, employees, no matter what, the doctor, any person cannot be more important than our connection with our creator, because no one can replace that connection. And every connection that we have with humans and with anything else we need is only just a mirror of our relationships with the Creator Himself. So the moment Joseph realized he had some dependency when he begged the wine steward to remember him, to get him out of jail, he realized that he's not ready for the throne yet. For 2 years, he prayed every day that the wine steward will forget him. And for 2 years, every morning, the wine steward forgot again and again that he promised that Hebrew boy in jail to get him out. 2 years later, that was Parashat Miketz. It was the end, an abrupt end to the darkness. How come? Joseph reached that place. He realized that his connection with the Creator is now above any dependency that he could have with any human being, which means he's ready for the job. And that night, he didn't pray for the wine spirit to forget him. That night, the Midrash is saying, an angel came and taught Joseph 70 languages. Joseph was prepared, and at that night, Pharaoh has two dreams. about the seven cows and the seven ears of wheat, and we know the story. In the morning, the whole thing changes. No one out of all of the wizards of Egypt can interpret properly the dream of a pharaoh. Finally, the wine steward remembers Joseph. They rush him from jail. They dress him up. He's standing in front of Pharaoh, and within a very short time, few just sentences, Pharaoh realizes that here we have the salvation of Egypt. And he appoints, at that moment, he appoints Joseph to be the viceroy of Pharaoh and the most powerful person in the region. He goes to sleep as a king. Now, that part of the story is done. Joseph is basically doing his tikkun. He's reaching his purpose, his calling, saving. First of all, he's saving Egypt. Second, he's saving the nations around Egypt because he had enough food also to feed the nations around Egypt and to enslave them to Egypt. And the most important thing, he can feed the family of his father and his siblings. They don't know yet that fact. Joseph is waiting for them to come. Finally, they come to Egypt to get some food because of the famine. And then Joseph is starting to play with them. He doesn't tell them he's the lost brother. He doesn't tell them anything. He not just this, he frames them again and again and again, blames them to be liars and cheats and spies. And finally, he forces them to bring Benjamin, his brother, to him. And then he frames Benjamin, and now the verdict will be, and that's the end, the cliffhanger of Parashat Miketz, just the verses before the ones of Parashat VaYigash. And Joseph is saying, hey guys, don't know what about you. You didn't do anything. He's the thief. He will stay with me. He will be my slave for the rest of his life. And you guys are free. Go to your father. And then our parasha is starting. Yehuda, which was the leader of the brothers, he was the leader, and therefore, remember, he was the one that gave the idea to sell Joseph to the Ishmaelites. Okay, now Yehuda is there standing in front of his second downfall because the first one cost him a lot. As we read in Parashat Vayeshev, after Yehuda gave that advice to sell Joseph, the next thing is Vayered Yehuda Ma'alechav. Yehuda is having a downfall. He falls from his brothers. They don't want him anymore. They don't want him to be their leader. And he goes through this weird story in which he has three sons. The first one dies after he marries Tamar. The second one dies also after he marries Tamar. And finally, without knowing that, Yehuda impregnates Tamar for twins. What a shame, something to be really ashamed of. And now Yehuda brings Binyamin to Egypt. He is the guarantor for Binyamin in front of Jacob. He's the one who's pursuing, convincing Jacob that Binyamin will come with him and it's going to be okay. And now Yehuda is standing there in front of a terrible, terrible disaster. Binyamin is staying as a slave. He goes back. What would he say to Yaakov? What would he say to his father? He's to be blamed for the loss of Yosef, that Yaakov does not know that. And now everybody will know that he was to blame for the loss of Binyamin. Okay? It's a terrible thing. Remember, Yehuda is the father of the two houses of the tribe of Yehuda, Peretz and Zerach. Peretz and Zerach. When these two houses get together with the story of Naomi and Ruth, that so Yehuda is supposed to be the leader of the tribes. From the houses of Peretz and Zerach should come King David and the lineage of King David and the Mashiach ben David. But now it looks like all of that is going to get lost. He's not going to have the crown if that's going to happen as it looks like. So that's our parasha is starting with the words Vayigash elav Yehuda, and Yehuda approaches Joseph. Now we have to remember that this is already after they have a conversation. Previously, in the end of Parashat Miketz ends up in a stalemate, like nobody knows what's going to happen, but it sounds like a big, big disaster. And now Yehuda speaks to Yosef, but now something happens. Because in the previous verses, verse 14, chapter 44, Vayavo Yehuda v'cha Yosef, and Yehuda and his brothers, it's clearly that Yehuda is the leader over here. They go back to the house of Joseph and they bow down in front of him on the ground. And Joseph is starting, what have you done? How did you think about stealing my goblet? And then Yehuda is answering, he's the leader, verse 16. Vayomer Yehuda ma nomar ladoni ma nedaber ma nitzadak. What can we say to our master? We cannot justify ourselves. Elohim matzah et avon avadecha. This is the sin. It's a punishment from God for the sin of your slaves. We are slaves. הננו עבדים לאדוני. גם אנחנו, גם אשר נמצא הגביע בידו. All of us will be your slaves. All of us, and the one that the goblet was found in his bags. So there is a discussion already. Vayomer Chalilali, verse 17, Joseph is saying, no, God forbid, I won't do that. האיש אשר נמצא הגביע בידו הוא יהיה לי עבד. The person that has the goblet, he will be my slave. ואתם עלו לשלום אל אביכם, and you go in peace to your father. So what's this verse 18, chapter 44? Vayigash elav Yehuda. And Yehuda approached Joseph. They were already talking. And we have to take it literally because the commentators are saying that the word Vayigash, we're talking about the Zohar is saying it. The Zohar says it very clearly. Rabbi Ashlag gets that. It's a very hard thing to understand why using the verb Vayigash. Why? It looks like this is not necessary because it would be enough. I'm translating from Rabbi Ashlag's commentary on verse 9 in the Zohar of Parashat VaYigash. It should be like trivial. It's not necessary. Would be enough to say, and Yehuda said to him, and Bi Adoni, Yadaber Na'avdecha Davar, is trying to beg him to let Binyamin go. The word Vayigash comes from the shoresh. Every Hebrew word has a shoresh. Most of them, the big majority, of 3 letters, like XYZ, that you put in the formula. In our case, the shoresh is nun gimel shin, which means to collide, to have an abrupt, when two cars collide, we use that verb exactly. Okay, hitnagshut. When a missile is colliding within another missile, the same thing is hitnagshut. When two hard things collide with each other and you have an abrupt collision, that is the word hitnagshut. Vayigash. So the Zohar is asking why is the Torah using that verb? It's not for the story itself, it's not necessary. Could be as a continuation of what happened, that's a conversation. Vayoma, which means he said, why, who collided in what? What was the collision? And here it says, and Yehuda collided with him. With whom? Did he collide with Joseph? What are we talking about? So we have to remember one very, very, very important thing, the most important thing. All of these stories of this of the tale of Abraham's family, Abraham and Sarah, and their children, and Isaac and Rivka and their children, and Jacob, Rachel, Leah, and their children. All of that, it's not a story. It's not even history. All the archaeologists will tell you the Torah is a bad archaeology book. The Torah does not care about archaeology, does not care about historical facts. The Torah is a document that is basically a copy transcribed from above of the blueprint of the universe. This is the code of the universe. We read the Torah, but when we read the Torah, there's one thing we have to ask ourselves. What's in it for us? What is the message I'm getting from this Torah reading? Because otherwise, it's like a waste. This is not a story, it's not gossip that we should argue if Yehuda was okay or not okay. No, no, we're not talking about that. We're talking about those people who were all chariots of higher levels. Abraham and Sarah Chesed. They are the Merkavot, the chariots of Sefirat Chesed. Yitzchak and Rivka, this is Gvura. Jacob is Tiferet. And you have Rachel and Leah. Rachel is Malchut, the Shekhinah. Leah is Binah. And we have the 12 tribes that they are chariots of the 12 signs of the zodiac, except from Joseph, who's the chariot for Sfirat Yesod. That's why there's no tribe of Joseph, but Menashe and Ephraim. So what is the message over here? And we need the Zohar for that because it's one of the most important messages we'll ever learn. And the Zohar is speaking about, let's read a few verses earlier in the Zohar, verse 8. And this is a quote on verse 8. Uh, Sorry about that. Let's find the quote because it's a very important one. It's in Hebrew, Ki ata avinu. Okay, this quote is from Isaiah, Prophet Isaiah, chapter 63, verse 16. כי אתה אבינו, because you are our father, כי אברהם לא ידענו וישראל לא יכירנו. So Abraham does not know us and Israel cannot recognize us. Adonai Avinu Goaleinu Me'olam Shmecha. The Lord our Father, our Redeemer, your name is everlasting. Now, this verse is very important for us to understand what is the story of Yehuda and Joseph and so on and so forth. So the sages are saying, I'm reading from the Zohar, verse 7. כי אתה אבינו בגין דהי עלמא, בהי דרגה השתכלל והתברי וברנש בי אתברי ונפק לעלמא. What's the meaning of that very weird verse? כי אתה אבינו, you are our father. Abraham does not know us. Israel does not recognize us. Only you, the Lord, you are Hashem, you are our father, you are a redeemer. So the story is like this. We have to understand that this world, the world that our world, the physical world, has been generated, created based on the idea of the letter bet. That's why the Zohar starts of this parasha with a very short form of the most famous article from the introduction to the Zohar, the article of the letters. In that article, it speaks about all the letters of the Hebrew alphabet coming to God, in front of God, one by one, from the last one to the back, from Taf to Aleph, from Omega to Alpha. And each one of them is imploring God to create the world based on her. And each one of them, God explains to her why that letter cannot be the main foundation of the creation. Till the letter Bet appears in front of God, letter Bet is a second, beta, the second from the beginning. And God said, because you, the letter Bet, you are the symbol, the manifestation of the word beracha, blessing, and the world should be standing on blessing and bliss. Therefore, you will be the one that the world will start with. And that's why the first letter in the Torah is Bet, Bet of the word Bereshit. The first word in the Torah, the first letter is Bet, and a big Bet. So, an explanation of what I just read in Aramaic, because of this physical world, which is Nukba. Nukba means in Aramaic female, which means the vessel, which means the basic idea of the creation. What does it mean? What is the main idea of the creation? The main idea of the creation is that since מה שטוב מתכונתו להיטיב, whatever is good is naturally doing good and giving to good. If the infinite light of the Creator is doing good, there's no way you can do good if there's nobody who can enjoy that goodness. And therefore, the vessel that was created to receive all the bliss of the Creator, all the pleasure and the joy, that vessel is called Nukba, the female, which means the creation is the female, the recipient, while the creator is the male, the donor, the giver. Okay, so this physical world, which is our world, the world that our consciousness, our awareness is part of, is basically based on I want, I need. If a human being doesn't want and doesn't need, he doesn't live. You need oxygen, you breathe. If you don't need oxygen, you don't breathe, you die. So, okay, that's a matter of minutes. If you stop breathing, you die. Why do you breathe? Because you need oxygen. Why do you go to work? Because you need money. Why do you do all kinds of things? Because you have to feed yourself because you need. It's all about that's the female is the recipient aspect of the creation. That's called nukba, female in Aramaic, in Hebrew nekeva. Okay, now that we understand that this is what the basic description of creation, of reality, and that nukba is called ata. Translation, you. You in single. Okay? Now, it's hard to translate. But the word ata also is made of two parts, as I is saying, Aleph to Taf, A to Z, or Alpha to Omega. That's Aleph Tet. And then Hey, that's Malchut, the female, which means what is the word Ata about? That when we bless, we say Baruch Ata. We use that word. Blessed are you. That's a simple translation, but it's not. There's no simple translation. Ata is the nukba, is the vessel. Aleph to Taf, A to Z, and into the Hey, which is the last Hey of the name of God, the Tetragrammaton, is again the nukba. It's a vessel. Okay? It's a vessel that is full because how do you draw the letter Hey? Most ways is simply you draw a dalet and a yud inside. Dalet means a door in Hebrew. That's why the letter D in English that comes from ancient Hebrew looks like a door. Okay? And a door also, but also it means a door is in the opening. When there is a wall, there's an opening in the wall, that's a door. That's where you put the door. And the door can open and close. And that means there's a place to take, there's a place to give. That's what the door is about. An open door and a closed door. These are meaningful expressions in human language. So because the word ata symbolize that idea of drawing the blessing from A to Z, from above, all the way to Hey, which is the nukva, that is called besiman bracha. That's what a bliss is about. And that's why the world was created and based on the letter Bet. She siman bracha, which symbolizes bliss. ויצא לעולם. ולפיכך נחשבת הנוקבה מבחינה זו לשורש אל האדם. Therefore, that nukba is the seed or the root for the creation of Adam and every human being. Why? We are part of what is called the nukba. We all, every human being, is relatively to the Creator Himself, we are females. Why? Because we are here to take. We are takers. The moment we stop taking, we die. The moment we stop breathing in, eating, thinking about what do I want, what do I need, we cease to exist. We are part of the nukba, the female aspect of the creation, the recipient aspect of the creation. ואנו אומרים אליה, and we say to that nukba, כי אתה אבינו. You are our father, which means, says the Zohar, ki ata shorshenu, you are, ata is the root for our existence. That's why Adam and humanity was created in that sign, under that signature of beracha, bliss. Verse 8, כי אף על פי שבו קיום העולם, שהוא סוד החסד, שכתוב עולם חסד ייבנה, לא ישתדל לנו כמו שישתדל על ישמעאל. So, Ki Avraham lo yedanu, Abram did not know us. Here comes a very weird thing that Abram, he prayed all the time that Ishmael will be blessed, will continue the lineage. He didn't pray so much for the birth of Isaac. Shamar lu Ishmael yichel lefanecha. He said, please God, let all the blessing come to Ishmael. Although God was telling him about the coming of Yitzchak. And when it says Ve'Yisrael lo kirenu, and Israel does not recognize us, כי כל הברכות שהיה צריך לברך את בניו, all the blessings that Jacob was supposed to bless his sons, הניח למדרגה הזאת, דהיינו לנוקבה. He left it for nukba. That level, which is nukba, is the cosmic vessel that every human being, his soul, comes from that vessel. We are creatures of desire. We were created for that purpose. How do I know I woke up in the morning? I already want something. Okay? Who am I? What defines a human being? His desires. Desires, bigger things. Smaller desires, smaller things. Good or evil, or evil. Even when Jacob blessed Ephraim and Menashe, what did he say? המלאך הגואל אותי מכל רע. הוא יברך את הנערים. The angel that is redeeming me from every evil, that angel will bless the boys. Who is that angel? The Shekhinah, Nukba. This is the Nukba. So it's not, this is a female angel, the feminine aspect. So, verse 9, I'm coming to explain what's in it for us. When he say, Ata Adonai Avinu, you are Hashem, our Father, which means you is the Nukba, the Nukba, כי את עומדת עלינו תמיד. Who really is our guardian? That's the Nukba. Levarech, to bless, להשגיח, to monitor, to guard. כמו אב המשגיח בנים, like a father that puts an eye on his sons. בכל מה שנצרך להם. And he takes care of all their needs. And then the verse continues, גואלנו מעולם שמך. You are our Redeemer. Your name is everlasting. כי את, דהיינו נוקבה. When we say אתה, את, א' to ת', is the נוקבה. הנקרא שם הוויה, which is also the tetragrammaton. So what is the code? There's a big secret hidden over here. And Rabbi Ashlag explains, we have to understand that Adam and the Nukba is the same thing. Adam, all the souls of humanity, and the Nukba is the same thing. We are God's vessel. We are God's recipients. We are the ones who were created to receive all the pleasure and the good that God has in mind to give. If you don't have a desire, how could you receive God's bliss? And therefore, when we speak about Adam, which is all the souls of humanity, and that Nukba, which is basically the same thing, it's another name for the same thing, הם שניהם במדרגה אחת, they both in the same, they represent the same frequency, the same level. דהיינו במדרגת חסדים המגולים בהארת חוכמה. And what is that level? It's a level of chasadim, okay, loving kindness, that they're being revealed through the shining, the light of chokhmah, which is the upper light. And I'll explain. So he explains that Abraham, that is the light of Chasadim. As we said, we're not taking Abraham as a nice granddaddy, like it's like grandfather. Okay? No, no. Abraham is Sefirat Chesed. He is the chariot for Sefirat Chesed. And therefore, he prayed for Chesed. Ki chafetz Chesed hu. And therefore, he prayed for the Chesed. Ki elehem kol chefetzo v'tshuvkato, all his desire. We're talking about that idea that it's called Abraham. The idea that it's called Abraham, this is Chesed, which means when we are in a Chesed mode, we are all about giving, all about this feel of being immersed in giving to others. This is what we're talking about Abraham, that we're passionate about giving. Okay, it continues, saying that when we say that we did not know Abraham, which means we do not have a connection to his Sefirat Dat. We cannot understand it. And why does it say V'Yisrael lo yakirenu? Israel does not recognize us. Israel is the central column. Usod kav emtzei shemechazeu lemala. This is the central column. Shesham sod alma ditkasya. That's the place of the hidden world, the hidden dimension of reality. מערת החוכמה, ועל כן כל בכלל נצטרך לברכה לבנוי שווה כלאי דרגה. Which means all the blessings that are coming from above to the creatures have to come from that level. Why? Because in order for us to receive, we need that level to receive from. And because Jacob could not do this, could not do that, that's why he left the blessing for the Nukva, that she will bless them. Because basically the level that is called Israel, you cannot understand because that's Israel is a higher level. We get a blessing through the Shekhinah, through the Nukba. In order for doing that, we need, and that's what's important, the most important thing in this parasha. What's important in this parasha is, for that to happen, we need Vayigash elav Yehuda. Yehuda represents that Nukba, represent that vessel. He's representing because he is Yehuda, the king, the lion king. And therefore, when it says that he collided with Joseph to unite, okay, let me explain in a simple language. When we read in many places how important is the verse from Leviticus 18:19, love others as you love yourself. Okay, but people don't really understand it. Everybody supports love others as you love yourself. Why? Because when everybody loves me, I'll be so happy and successful, and I'll give everything. I'll give a lot. Just love me, give me, support me. But that's not how it works. Why? Because every time we are not being supported and not nurtured by our society, our community, our family, our friends, whatever, our country, we get upset. And as we said, there's one thing that is the most important thing in our lives, which is our relationship with the Creator. Acknowledging that only the Creator can give us what we need. Why? Other people, they're also vessels. Can they really supply us with our fulfillment? Impossible. So what happens? What happens if I really give a lot to people? sooner or later you're going to get disappointed. Why? They cannot reciprocate. They cannot really fulfill you. Why? Because they are also parts of the Nukba. They are recipients of the light. They are not the source of light. The only thing that can really fulfill us is the Creator Himself. For that, you need to connect to Him. Now, if I'm judging always other people, they gave me back what I gave them? Did they appreciate what I gave them? Did they say thank you? If you are running your life this way with such an accounting, you will go bankrupt very easily, energetically. Why? Because when it says love others as you love yourself, there are a few words that continue it. Ani Hashem. I am Hashem, the Lord. Which means, why do I have to love other people? So Rabbi Ashlag Bala Sulam explains that in the most important way in his essay of loving others, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, some 90 years ago, and he explains why is it that the Soviet Union will fall apart because they will go bankrupt. And he says very simple. The moment you say that we establish an economy that every person will get according to his or her needs, okay? However, there's no competition. There's no free commerce. So you get according to your needs. However, you'll never be compensated according to your efforts because there's equality. And Rabbi Ashlag is saying for a human being to be successful, you need to set a goal. Now, the point is like this. When the goal is the welfare of society, you start being very excited about the great idea of communism. However, sooner or later, you'll realize that maybe you are working like crazy, but most people don't take it seriously. So what happens? You bring a value. You are an asset to your company, to your whatever. However, everybody else enjoys it, and people who do not make the right effort or even the slightest effort, they get also. Why should I make the effort? If A, people don't appreciate it, B, if they even take spoils from my achievements. Sooner or later, normal human beings, say Rabbi Ashlag, that was 1930, they will stop trying even. Because this is untangible, the welfare of society. And because of that, the production level of the GDP of the Soviet Union will drop and drop till finally they have no food to eat. That's exactly what happened. It says human beings they need fuel. What is fuel? It's what's in it for me, something that gets me excited. Now we have to understand there are two things that can get us excited. One is Or the Chokhmah, the light of wisdom, which is a code name for the original light of the Creator. And God said, let there be light. The problem is like this, the moment we achieve that fulfillment by getting excited about receiving money, food, honor, power, uh, mental stimulus, sex, alcohol, whatever, you're very excited about it. You get the light of wisdom because the light is infinite. It will enter into your vessel, the nukba, you are female, you receive. And then it will burn you up. What I call high and by. You'll feel high 10 minutes, 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour or two, but there's always a morning after. Why? The moment we urge the universe to supply with us with the light of the light of the creation, which is infinite. It's all about supplying, the light will give. We will receive, but we are the Nukba. And we are here in this world to turn the Nukba into light. We cannot just be a vessel. I'm receiving, I want it, I get it because it comes to me because I feel like having it. Whenever we do that, this is a nukba that is disconnected from the upper world. Why? Similarities attract. No happy, egotistic people. You are focused all day long about how can I get high? Maybe that food, maybe to buy a car, maybe to go to buy a luxurious watch, maybe to go on a luxurious cruise, maybe, maybe there's so many you want to know what it is, the whole list. Like watch any movie, anything on the internet, and you find the advertisement. And they all are basically offering you a quick fix. Do you feel unsettled, not restful, or whatever? That will satisfy you, finally. It will never. It can give you a temporary satisfaction, but you are getting the satisfaction as a nukba, as a female, from above to below. When you receive the light from above to below, it blows you up from below to above. And you stay with the residue of the blow. That's why selfish people are never happy. That's why following, follow your heart, follow your desires. This is dangerous. People who follow their heart and their desire, they get high and by. And then you start to blame or to feel shame and guilt, whatever, all what the bad side of what religion has to offer. I probably did something wrong. Of course, you did something wrong. But what did I did wrong? And here comes the idea. The other idea Rabbi Ashlag is explaining, if you follow love others as you love yourself, because that's going to create the ideal society of people equal to each other, there will be equality. If you're willing to do that, that's not going to work. It's not going to work because when you go, you love others so they reciprocate with you, will never work. We all know that. I can do a lot of good stuff for other people. They will never, ever appreciate what I put in saving them or helping them because they've never, if they knew how to do it, they do it themselves. They don't. Don't even expect that to happen. Why? We don't need to get our reward from other people, flesh and blood. Why? Because every human being is part of the nukva, and the nukva is a recipient. I can't trust the recipient. He's not there to give me, he's there to take for himself. However, there is one way to basically change that vicious cycle, which means receiving, getting burned down, blaming the whole world, feeling guilty and shame and blame and stuff like this. Or how do you break this vicious cycle? You do what is called Vayigash. That's what Yehuda is doing. Yehuda is approaching Joseph, but really in the upper world, he's colliding with Joseph. Okay, he's uniting himself with Joseph. What is it doing over here? How can you unite with the upper world? You are a female, you're Nukba. The Nukba is down below. When you turn the desire, the need, the urge, the passion to receive, you turn it into the desire to give. It's the desire to receive for the sake of sharing. And you transform all the enthusiasm and the passion and excitement into one goal, which is that goal is to collide with the upper Yesod. How do you do that? When you do what is called man. Man is initials of Maim Nukvin, female water, the water of the Nukba. What does that mean? When a person is loving the other human being, because it says, love others as you love yourself, I am God. Why do I love you? Because that's my way to connect to the Creator. The more I love other people, the closer I am with the Almighty. And when I do that, I'm basically taking off. I'm basically ascending. I am basically, and that's called why it's called Main Nukbin, female water. It's like I turn the nature of water, which is coming down naturally, I turn it into a geyser, which the water is flowing from below to above. That's a fountain, that is a spring. What is that doing? When we go against our nature of being nukba, which means I am, I receive, I want, I get, I need, okay? When I let go of that, just for a moment, and I ascend to the upper realm. How do I do that? Man, Maim Nukbin, like a geyser coming from below to above. It's also the same letters, the initials of Mesirut Nefesh. What is Mesirut Nefesh? Moser means handing over. Nefesh, Nefesh is your Malchut soul, your soul from the level of Malchut. When you're telling the Creator, I'm willing to give everything, even my soul, to you, just because you need me to be there for you. I am doing that. That's my pleasure. What are you doing at that moment? That's called man. That's called Nukvin or Mesiut Nefesh. You simply devote yourself to the Creator. So when we love others, not because of a calculation that it's going to be profitable for us, we'll be nice to them, they'll do with us business. So we are going to make some business because of that. No, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about when we share with each other, with our spouses, with our children, with our friends, with our employers and employees and all of that. Every person we interact with, we share unconditionally because I have a vision. I have a mission, and the mission is connecting to godliness. And the only way I can connect to godliness is when I devote myself for something bigger than my life. The story of Hanukkah was a very similar story. The Hellenistic Greeks, they did not want to kill all the Jews in the land of Judea. No, they wanted them to Hellenize. They wanted them to worship the same gods, to speak the same language, to follow the same culture, which was all about worshiping the human lowest needs and desires: money, food, sex, honor. That's the story of all the Greek gods. Okay? We're not something higher. When the Hellenistic Empire oppressed the Jews in Judea and forced them not to keep Shabbat, not to study Torah, not to circumcise their children, their reaction was, if I cannot connect to God, if I cannot connect to the Father, to our Father in heaven, I don't need my body. I know I don't need my nukba. I don't need my physical presence on that dimension. So I'll better sacrifice it, give it away. And they started to fight. They didn't start to fight because they said, we'll fight for God and God will give us a land. No, will fight for our right to keep our tradition, to keep the Torah and study it, to keep the circumcision and Shabbat. They fought for that. They fought for that because of, again, Maim Nukbin, Mesiut Nefesh. They were like so dedicated that if I cannot connect to godliness, if I cannot connect to the love of the Creator, which is the male aspect of the creation, and when you do that, you as a female, all of us are females, you lift yourself up. And when you lift yourself up, you lift yourself up all the way to Yesod, from Malchut all the way to Yesod. When you crash with Yesod, you are Vayigash. It's because you elevated enough. And then Yesod opens up and all the bliss comes down. And when the bliss comes down, things find a way. Suddenly, it was after years, the Greek Empire gave up, allowed the Jews to get independent in their kingdom of Judea. Okay? The result was not logic, but it was real. For us, it's the same story. Whenever we bump into, collide with any kind of a problem, what arouses immediately inside us is how do I settle that the fastest possible? And I'm willing to pay for it. But what is the goal? To calm things down. Same goal Yehuda had when he convinced the brothers not to throw Joseph and not to kill Joseph, but to throw him into the pit. And then to convince them to get him out of the pit and sell him as a slave. If Yehuda really thought that it's wrong to kill Joseph, why did not he, with the utmost devotion, why did not he come in between Joseph and his brothers? Why did not protect him? He didn't do that because he was still into what's in it for me. He didn't get it yet. He got his second chance when Joseph orchestrated that huge drama. For the brothers, it looks like this is the end. How are we going to come back to Abba, to our dad? How are we going to come back to Jacob and tell him, we left Benjamin also in Egypt with the king? Now Joseph is dead, Benjamin, they are the two only sons of Rachel, the beloved wife of Jacob. It looks like this is like, there's no solution, but there is a solution. Always there's a solution. Our brain is saying there's no solution. Yes, there's no solution if you continue in the same direction, if you continue to do what you used to do, continue to get what you used to get. But there's another way. The other way is devotion, when a person is fighting for something bigger than life, when a person is willing to sacrifice his pleasures, his comfort, whatever is belonging to the Nukba world that we are. I'm here just to take. Give me, God. When we give that up and we elevate, how do we elevate? We jump. How do we jump? When we really create Mesiut Nefesh, when we're willing to give our soul away just to be able to be connected to the Almighty through the Torah, Brit Milah, Shabbat, all of these tools. So when we're willing, as the generation of the Maccabees, the Hashmonaim, we went for a war. We were not fighting for centuries already. We didn't know how to hold on to weapons. We still gathered the weapons, taught each other to fight, and then went to fight the professional army, the most professional army in the world, the Greek army, with all the armor and all the protective shields and all the and all the catapults and bombing they had. It's just a bunch of people with knives. But it was worthwhile dying for it. What was the result? Is turning the wheel around from Hellenism, which means it's all about the body, the pleasures of the body, and there's no low pleasure of the body, because according to Hellenism, all the pleasures like overeating or using sex as a mean just for physical pleasure, not as a union with of Malchut and of Nukba and the upper world. No, just for the physical pleasure. The moment that is, and that's called Hellenized, being Hellenized, when and that what happened, then you simply roast. You get roasted because all of that light that is coming from above, unconditionally, without any judgment, will burn you down. Because receiving the light as Nukba, I'm a vessel. I'm receiving the light passively. What happens when you get overload of electricity into a smaller machine? It explodes. That's exactly what happens to people. That's exactly what happened to Yehuda. He wanted things to be comfortable and okay. So instead of by devotion fighting for Yosef's right to be their brother, he sold him. He missed the opportunity. So he needed to come to a second round. Now he was willing to give himself up as a slave just to let Benjamin going back. So that's about us. When we confront any kind of a situation, and all what we can feel about is what do I get out of it? How do I get the pleasure? How to get the benefit? Whatever. It's all about me, what's in it for me. The light will come in. It will blow you up. The more selfish you become, the more blows you will get. Why? The energy, the power will come in and blow you away. That's the rule of the universe. That's what the Zohar is teaching us. However you want to live, you want to survive, you have to understand that if you don't have as a human being something that you're willing, something bigger than life, a vision, a hope, a dream, that you're willing to sacrifice, to devote yourself to it. When you're willing to sacrifice, devote yourself to it, you turn yourself from the receiving end part of the game to the giving. That's called mayim nukbin. It's like the water that spring like a geyser out of the of earth to collide with the heaven. Only then we fulfill the purpose of our creation. Only when we live for something higher. So when, going back to the verse, love others as you love yourself, when we love other people because that's the way to connect to godliness, that's our vision, that's our mission, that's our worldview. It's better to die for it, it's better to live for it, but still there's something bigger than life. When people live life this way, and they live with that, with a mission greater than life, serving other people, serving other ideas. And by this, you run away from being stuck in the Nukba and getting burned and roasted alive. And you wonder, why is it that the most comfortable countries in the world, they're also the countries with the highest level of depression, which is very painful, and the highest consumption of antidepressants. Why is it like this? Because when you're being raised for individualism and narcissism, you're being raised on entitlement, and you're always running to satiate your only nukba, which means I need, I want, I desire. How do I fulfill that? When this is your focal point, you're dead. Then you fall. Then you collapse. Then you lose your energy and your drive. And that's how you see that all of those societies that were built in the last few decades after World War II. And finally, humanity came to peace, and there's enough food for everybody, there's enough shelter for everybody. There are very rich people, and there are not so rich people, but everybody has the basic needs and necessities. And people lost their desire to live. There's no excitement anymore. Why? Only when you devote yourself for a mission bigger than your life. Only then you will feel that collision, that Yehuda is colliding, he's willing to sacrifice himself to become a slave instead of Benjamin. If you don't find a mission and a vision greater than life, could be for society, for the needy, for spreading spirituality, for doing something greater than just, I'm here, I woke up in the morning, what do I eat? How do I enjoy the best? How do I get more pleasure to my body with maybe massages and maybe that and maybe other things, right? It's all about you. That will be your demise. You will die. You lose. You just, every time you pull the light in, it will give you a high and a buy and a blow, and you'll be like black, like charcoal from within. Darkness, you'll be your share. And then when your desire is suppressed, you're depressed, because there's no light any there anymore. But when you love other people, because that's the way to serve the great idea of the Creator. That's the way I can connect to the Creator. That's why I am serving the will of the Creator. So more people are being loved. So I feel love for more people. I'm doing it because that's my way to connect to my Lord, to my Creator, because similarities attract. You want to connect to God? Be a giver like God is a giver. You want to connect to the Creator? Overcome your, daily moments of, I want it now, I need it now, I have to get it now. Step up, rise, ascend higher and higher with the vision. People need to be for something good and something greater. There's a little problem today. You can rally people for a greater good because you can feel that you belong to something. But what if that rally is to hatred? How do you know? You see the parade. It's a parade of hatred. That's a parade of folly. Because the more you hate, the lower you get. There's no justification for hatred. You want to do something good, parade for love, parade for giving, parade for caring, parade for light, for ideas of light. How do you know you're not cheating yourself? Look at yourself. If you can, everybody is rallying around hatred, the flag of hatred, this is the sick aspect. That's death. That's the army of death. And you're part of it. The nukba without the desire to devote yourself for loving and caring and making the world a better place, not just being right, making the world a better place by being there for others. How do you know you did it? You feel love towards other people. They're good or not good, it doesn't matter. You feel love. Then you know you accomplished your mission. Then you become immortal because that's not high and by. This is staying forever. Tzidkatcha omedet la, charity stays forever. Thank you so much. Have a happy Hanukkah. Carry the light of Hanukkah that is going from above to below. That's a devotion. That's a giving. That's being there committed for something greater than life. And it has to be involved with loving. It has to be involved with commitment. It has to be involved with devotion, Mesirut Nefesh. So that's also, by the way, the only correction for the sign of Capricorn. Because the sign of Capricorn that is always beginning in Hanukkah, it's a very, very materialistic, earthly sign. The only correction is devotion for something higher than just physical. When Capricorn can do that, there's no limit how far, how high they can reach. But if they try, and we all have a Capricorn within us, especially in the month of Tevet, then the more you're trying to secure your own desires and needs and so on, the lower you fall, the abrupt it is the fall, the more explosive is the fall, and the more painful it is. So that's our lesson. Good luck with all of that. חודש טוב, חנוכה שמח, שבוע טוב.